If you're going to build anything in St. Louis, any kind of construction, it's important to have a company that is family-based right here out of St. Louis. We've got an expert here who's going to talk about it. Stay tuned. Welcome everyone to the Your Little Castle show. Again, I argue that I have the best job in the whole wide world because I get to talk to experts. There's no excuse for me to have everything that goes wrong because I have all the experts that you could ever imagine on our little planet that'll make things right. And with that, we're going to start off here talking to an expert in the building. I'm going to put the title up here for everybody to see for her. And she is an expert in construction right here, based out of Manchester, Missouri. Give it up for Lisa Vonarx Palmer. Did I say that close?
You did.
Vonarx Palmer, owner, general contractor, ManchesterConstruction.net. You've got over 20 years of experience doing this too. Is that true?
That is true. That is very true.
Well, tell me what led you here. Why did you decide to get into construction?
I grew up. My father was he worked. He was a sales engineer for Johns Manville doing commercial roofing. That's what I grew up with. And I actually went different ways. I tell my dad that if he would have pulled me into the company when he first started it back in 1984, it could have, I would have had a lot more knowledge back when I was younger than...
We're still very young, but you got the experience too. So
I do have the experience. But I think I was 17 when he started the business, so... Okay, yeah. I would have learned it, and his thing was, you wouldn't have been interested, Lisa.
Okay, so you had a choice, though, and so that even as such, how much later in your career, in your life, was it that you ended up saying, I wanted to do this?
So I went back to it in 2018. I was a realtor. I still am a realtor. And during that time of being a realtor, I also did new construction. I always wanted to be an architect. I didn't go down that road. So my experience in new construction and learning what I needed to learn about roofing and siding and gutters through the new construction, it seemed like a good next step to go back into my father's business.
Yeah, if you've got a background in real estate as a realtor, then you've dealt with all the time where you had to help people make sure that the roof was done, make sure that the siding was inside, make sure any plumbing was windows. You dealt with all of that.
Yes.
So a great background there to have with it as well. What is it that really fuels your passion for this? Obviously, it's something you started off with, being surrounded with it, and then came around to it and involved with it many years. But what do you love about it?
So again, it's helping people. What I tell them is, usually your home is your biggest investment. True. So you have to take care of that home, and what covers that biggest investment but your roof. And
yeah, so roofing has become a critical element here in St. Louis because we get these terrible hailstorms, and now we recently a couple tornadoes.
Yes.
What's the response been for you now that you've had to deal with all of that here in the last couple of years?
It has been. I mean, Central West End is still trying to rebuild.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there that still need to have their siding, and right after it happened in March, just the March storm last year, we went down south where it hit really bad, and just looking at all the roofs and the siding that was damaged from those storms last March. Yeah,
and part of what you and I had a discussion with before we got into this involves being part of our local community. With that, we'll give a shout out to Carroll House Furniture, because you like nice things in your little castle. I'm going to put that up on the wall for everybody to see, but I did that little conversion. I even added a slide for that. In your little castle that is very likely, good chance, with 20 years experience in Manchester construction. Your dad ran the company for a long time too, so good chance somebody might have had some work done by you here in St. Louis.
Yes. Yes, and my dad is still behind the scenes. He is more of a flat roof expert. I'm more. I know how to do stone coated steel roofs, and which adds so much value to your house.
Okay. Yeah, steel roofs, and now they can make those steel roofs look like traditional roofs.
And just, on one of my pictures on my website, that is a stone coated steel roof that looks like a tile roof.
Yeah, and I'll put that up here. So that is it right there. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, yeah, they come off in these big panels. I've seen them advertised a little bit, but you guys have become experts in installing these now.
Yes, I'm getting ready to install one in Weldon Springs in the next few weeks.
And tell me why these are such a benefit to people.
It actually will add value to your house because it's going to lower your insurance premiums because the insurance company knows that they're not going to have to keep replacing roofs every 5 or 6 years because of the storms. So it adds about a 50-year warranty to your roof. It also helps with your utility costs because it lowers your utilities within your house.
Wow, so utilities are something that obviously can add quite a bit of expense if you don't have the right insulation. So these are steel, helps keep the heat inside the home.
Helps keep the heat inside, also helps keep the air conditioning inside. So, and when I first put my own steel roof on for my company, when they were installing it, it was a dark colored roof. So asphalt shingles, fiberglass shingles, you touch that dark roof
right
in the hot sun, it's going to be hot.
Right.
And I put my hand on there, and it was cool
because of the steel.
Yes.
Interesting. So that adds up. So all kinds of ways you save here with the heating and cooling of the home, and obviously because it's such a strong roof, it's going to be insured for so long.
Right.
Or covered, or last for so long, and covered with a. But you said the warranty on these can be 50 years,
yes.
Or they'll last 50 years? Holy cow, how do you... So that means they're going to be calling you for up to 50 years, and to have... That's a good way to keep a long list of clients, right? If they're going to keep coming back to you for 50 years. We talked, like I said, I was getting into that before I did my introduction there, thanking our sponsor, Carroll House Furniture, but how important is it to have that local connection with a locally run and owned, family-owned business?
Because you know that local is going to be here for you. We're not going to just come in for the storms. We are here within the community. We're here. We know you. My customers become my friends. They can reach out to me at any time. If they have a problem, they don't have to worry that I'm going to be gone over on the East Coast because that's where the storms are. I live here. I live in the community, and I serve the community.
Yeah, so you're based here out of St. Louis. You grew up in Manchester, I guess.
I did. Manchester, the city of Manchester.
Right down the street there on Manchester Road, where the Cardinal Cowboy played a lot of baseball. Played against Bill Miller back in the day, if you guys know Bill Miller. But yeah, that was kind of the emerging part of St. Louis back in the, I guess, 80s and 90s. And it ends up being one of the nicest places in St. Louis to live, all the way down. But if you go down Manchester Boulevard, they used to be known for car dealerships, and now it's just every business under the sun is there.
It is. And I grew up there. I watched all of the strip malls and everything just be built on Manchester Road. When I was out there, when we bought out there, there was nothing really on the...
Yeah, Manchester back in the day was a one-lane road each way, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I don't think I'm not that old yet.
I don't remember that one, actually. It was always divided when I was there.
Yeah.
But we played up there at the Baldwin Athletic Association, and we played over at Manchester. I'll never forget, I did the iron ball tag. I slapped the guy's foot, and he came off the bag, and they called him out. But it is one of the premier places, but it's also great access to anywhere around St. Louis, because you just up and down. You can get south real quick, you can get north real quick, you can get on the highway and get on downtown. And so you service, what parts of St. Louis do you prefer to service? Where do you, all over St. Louis? Or
yeah, all over St. Louis. I'll go anywhere. I'll even go at least an hour out. I don't like going too far out, and I'm not licensed in Illinois, but out here in Missouri, I'll go either way.
Yeah, because you've got Wentzville, and then you've got Festus, and Crystal City, and Hillsboro, and I grew up down in the Fenton area, actually, is where I actually grew up. But yeah,
just down the street from me.
Down the street, and I was telling Lisa, that my dad said, and I love Fenton, and I was playing baseball at Fenton, but they had the Corey League, and it was 12 games a year. And he said, Carter, we're going to take this to the next level. We're going to play in Baldwin, where we played 40 games a year. And they just had a little bit different baseball program. But again, kind of the center for St. Louis, and a lot of the best-known businesses, a lot of the most famous people. The Bomberitos are all over around Manchester. And it's kind of become a central point and a great place to center a family-owned business. Do you think being in this region has made it easier for you to develop the family relationship you have with the community?
I do. I think they trust people that are actually local. I've had people, when I am talking to them, say, well, we don't want to go with this company, they're not from St. Louis, they're not from this area. And I respect that.
Yeah, because how often is it the case and why is that so important? It's for a couple of reasons. One, if they are based here, they're not somebody that just picked up a truck, and they call it chucking a truck.
Truck, yeah.
and all of a sudden they're a roofing guy, and they put a ladder on the back of their. You've seen these guys, but also that you've just got that you have a foundation here where you know where there's a place to go, because when there is a problem, and there's periodically you have another issue comes about, another storm comes through. Who are they going to call to say, hey, they did my last roof, Manchester did my last roof, who can help me with this one? And they're going to be able to back me up versus so many companies that they're here one day and they're out of business next.
Well, exactly. And I also know the weather here too. So I feel like I can give you options, for your roof that's going to protect you. Not every insurance, because I do a lot of insurance work. And I like doing that because I feel like, I'm working with you and the insurance is paying for your roof, and I'm getting your roof with little money out of your pocket. I have a gentleman that works with me. He likes selling retail. That's his little niche, is retail.
Okay. And
but I can say, you know what, this is the kind of roof that you have, and this is why it's not going to last in this region.
Yeah.
Because I grew up here. I was born here, and we did move away for about 6 years, but I grew up here, and I've experienced St. Louis weather all the time.
Yeah. So you got 6 years of getting to experience it somewhere else to see what other people deal with. But yeah, that's a great point for somebody who's had the experience you've had of actually dealing with the storms that you have here all the time. And I guess the other thing you make a great point of, insurance work has become so critical. And how often do people say, oh no, I'll just call the insurance company myself? Well, they're not in the business of handing out checks. They're in it for their own benefit too. Do you think it's a big benefit having the experience you have in a city like St. Louis, where there is these kind of storms and hail, and having the experience of working with the insurance companies?
Yes, because I do have the experience of working with the insurance companies. I tell somebody, don't let an adjuster on your roof without me being there with that adjuster, because the insurance company, like you said, they're going to be like, I don't make money by handing you out checks. So if I'm on that roof with that adjuster, I'm going to point out what that adjuster needs to see and make sure that they take the pictures.
Write that one down, everybody. Have Lisa on the roof. I'd like to see you get her on the roof. She's up there climbing roofs, because you don't know what dimples or hail or granule loss and all the stuff that goes into that. And they're looking to say, oh, and that happened to me. I can give you a personal experience. They did it with my siding, and you tell me how many times you've seen this. And it came through. It was a tornado we had in 2013. Yep, mm-hmm. She knows the storms here. And the guy said, oh yeah, we're going to cover your front and your side, but the other two sides we're not covering. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, oh, okay. But if I'd had somebody there working with me directly, I saved a few bucks, but it cost me. And so they didn't replace two sides of my siding, 2-story house, and there was enough damage that if I'd have been on them. But
and that happens because, again, they're insurance companies. They'll take your money, but they don't like to give it to you. That's what business sometimes leads to. With that, lots of great reviews Lisa has out there on her Facebook, and also on the BBB, got a few out there, and that A+ rating on the BBB. That took some time to earn, obviously, but how does that make you feel, having those good things people say about you and the reviews you got? It makes me feel great. And like I said, I build a relationship with my customers. So any person that I've dealt with, they have my number and they can call me at any time if there's a problem with their roof. Even 3 years down the road, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to look and see if it's something that, is from our install or whatever, and take care of it.
Very well said. I mean, call Lisa at any time. That's her cell phone, actually. She's got a couple numbers there, but that's the direct number and you can text that number too, right?
You can, and I will answer you.
And she's always available. All right, with that, we're going to share some of the fun we have in our community here. Lisa probably knows some of these people we were talking to, but stay tuned. We'll be back here in just a minute talking more with Lisa.
Lewinsky. And I'm reading off a script because my wife says that I babble on too long. So, all right, but I am going to say something before I start reading, and that is this idea started like 8 weeks ago. Can I just get a round of applause for my team that did this? Seriously, like 8 weeks ago we were sitting there saying, do you think we can do we can actually have an event this year? Not another, like our first one was 30 people, but. So we're like, can we have an event this year? Anyways, I'm really glad. Anyways, I get the honor of calling Mary Stowinski, my wife. No, she didn't write this. If you know Mary, you know this visionary truly loves God and truly loves people. So this idea she had, we call Dementia Life, was destined to become more than I could ever have imagined. I can't wait for all of you to hear later about this movement and how it's enriching the lives of people. Not only those that have dementia, but those that care for people with dementia. So that's what we're all about. First, I'd like to introduce you to another man with a mission. This man brings smiles to everyone as he sets out to also make the community a better place. He supports charities like this, and I'm sure you all recognize this St. Louis icon, our MC for the night, the Cardinal Cowboy. Thank you, Tim. Give it up for Tim and Mary putting together a heck of an event, man. I like the theme.
His name is Carter Rethwich, but in St. Louis, he's known as the Cardinal Cowboy. He's a well-known fixture in the stands at sporting events in the Gateway City. He's one of its greatest cheerleaders, a super fan like no other. When he makes his rounds at almost every home game, he shares his love for sports with the rest of fandom with a smile, a cheer, some positive encouragement, and lots of selfies and pics. But the Cardinal Cowboy was born of a tragic incident. Rethwich was an aspiring athlete in high school and college. He dreamed of playing in the big leagues, but those dreams ended when he and 3 of his college friends were hit with a devastating crash by a 5-time drunk driver. One of his best friends died. Carter suffered a critical head injury. The trauma put him in a coma for 6 days. The doctors said he was never expected to function again. Those expectations never came true. He fought back and finished college. He was determined to prove the doctors wrong. Among other inspirations, it was his love of baseball that kept him going. And from his near-death experience, the Cardinal Cowboy emerged. His goal in life became to inspire others with positivity despite the odds, to help people believe in themselves and achieve their dreams.
So after my coma, I realized that it was up to me if I was going to accomplish my goals, if I was going to reach my dreams. Despite what the naysayers would say, the people that were discouraging me, like they do everyone, it's up to me if I'm going to make it. Don't listen to the naysayers. It's up to you. You decide whether you're going to succeed, whether you're going to reach your goals. Dream, and then always, always chase your dreams. Never give up. Giddy up. Hey, we're looking for the small business owners and leaders in our community to be on our show. This is the Your Little Castle Show. We air 3 times a week, every week on ABC, and we would like to put somebody you know, or maybe it's you, who's a business owner to be on our show. You'll sit right here in our guest chair, right here, sitting here talking to us. We're going to put on the wall your website and everything about you and highlight you as a leader. fill out the form you see here on our website. It's bigleagues.com. And if you go to bigleagues.com, fill out this form. Takes just a couple seconds, and you can even schedule yourself right here. Schedule yourself to be on the show, and there is no charge for us to record you. There's no charge to be in the studio. Check it out if you would like to be on. Fill out the form again, bigleagues.com. This is where we can turn any interview into a series of clips. Check that out. Go to bigleagues.com. So you see there, and media has impacted, check out our book, Impacted Our World So Much. Magnetized Media, yours truly, wrote the foreword here. #1 seller on Amazon, and this gives you some great tips about how we use these things right here, our smartphones, and get the information out there. We'll come back to that in a minute. With that, first I want to talk to Lisa a little bit about what does it take, why should somebody definitely take care of their roof, the construction work that they've got, especially when there's a storm involved. What we just talked about, you don't have to name who that was unless it's somebody you know that you want to mention, but why is it so important to make sure you get these problems taken care of? What happens? They might not cover it.
Yes, if your insurance company has paid you to do your roof, do your gutters, do your windows, and you don't do all of them, so at the end of our process, what we do is we send a final invoice to the insurance company saying that we have completed all the work and what we have completed, and then they will cut you the rest of the check. So sometimes if it's just little dings on your gutters, you may not want to repair all your gutters, but again, you know that the next time the insurance company is not going to
They're
pay
going to
for
say,
that.
no, those gutters
Yes.
aren't covered. That was caused by a different storm.
So if you get paid for a roof, and usually it's about $10,000 for a roof. If you get paid for a roof and you're like, I'm not gonna get a roof, and you just put that money in your pocket and keep it, the next time you get hit by a storm, the insurance company is going to be like, we paid you, for a new roof, and we came out here. We know this is the same roof, and you're not going to get. So it's going to get paid for one way or the other.
Yeah, so don't cut corners on those because you'll end up paying for it. It can be very expensive when you're paying for roofs out of your own pocket. Like you said, they're only $10,000, $15,000, which is a lot of money to most people.
Right.
But why wouldn't you have the experts come through and get that covered properly by the insurance company? And then the next time it comes around, if they have to replace it again, it's still covered. Exactly.
And then if you don't get it taken care of the first time, every time you piece of hail, you have a hail strike on the roof on your asphalt shingles, it's creating a fracture in that shingle. So every time your shingle is fractured, that's allowing water to seep in to the underneath of the roof. Your
your decking underlayment. Yeah. What do you have? What's the underlayment? It's a synthetic typically.
Synthetic is what we're using more now. A lot of times, 20 or so years ago, they would use tar paper, which is basically paper dipped in tar to create a moisture barrier, but over time it disintegrates, and synthetic underlayment is much better.
See, that's where you get to learn the technical terms here, like tar paper and synthetic underlayment. Talk to the experts with real estate backgrounds to see. This is one of the houses. We're going to show off some of their work here in a minute. Well, give me the lowdown. Why should somebody choose you? What is it that you think you do better and it sets you apart from the rest?
Well, I work with insurance companies. I also try very hard. I'm not a huge company. I'm a small company. I'm a family-owned company. I'm here to help you save as much money as you possibly can, even if you are doing retail, because I don't have a lot of overhead. I don't have these huge office buildings and 300 employees that I'm paying. So where other people have to add for that, their top dollar.
There's all kinds of overhead involved there. It's going to cost you more, and that cost has to come out somewhere. They try to make up for it in volume, but then you're getting a mass volume deal? Everybody wants to have that personal service from somebody like yourself.
There is a builder here in St. Louis, I won't use the name, that fits that role. They have lots of volume, but they cut corners, but we're not going to cut the corners because I don't have that overhead. I'm building. Yes, I want to build a successful and make money, but I also want it to be a win-win situation for everybody.
Very important, yes, and something you should definitely take into account. But obviously, you deal with permits, and you have to go through the normal inspection processes. You also got that BBB A+. We talked a little bit about. What do you enjoy most about the fact that you are a small business? You mentioned that just a second ago. What's my next question? You're reading right to it. Why is it so important? Because small businesses really can adapt to the needs of a homeowner.
Yes, we can, because again, we don't have the overhead, so I can do things. So the metal roofs that I put on, the stone coated steel, there's a company that's nationwide. They're going to charge you about $2,500 a square.
Wow.
For that stone coated steel. I can charge you, depending on the roof, right? Because of cuts, because when you cut a steel roof, you can't reuse. So depending on the roof, I can charge you anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 versus the $2,500.
Holy cow! That's half the price to 75% savings off of what they're. Yeah, and that's because the overhead you don't have. Same exact roof.
Right. And during that March 2024 storm, I was out door knocking in a subdivision in St. Charles over in the Bluffs, and I knocked on this gentleman's door. He had a high deductible, so it was pretty much coming out of his own pocket anyway, and he was interested in the metal. I didn't really follow up with him, but a year later he called me. He's like, I'm ready to move on this. He called that other nationwide company, and I said, hey, I know exactly what they're going to do, because he told me when they're coming out. I said, I've already been at your house. I've got the pictures. I've got the measurements. I will get my bid together, and I will let you know. I said, and they're going to tell you, you have to do this right now. You have to, or you're not going to get that price. I said, that's not true. That is not true.
Oh, wow.
And so I called him exactly on the third business day that he could, his right of rescission. And I called him like, okay, you ready for me to come over and talk to you about my bid? And he's like, well, I'm like, oh my gosh, did you sign a contract with them? He's like, well, I said, why did you sign a contract with them? Well, we were afraid that we weren't going to get that price. I said, I talked to you about this. You'll get that price. If I can't beat it, you'll get that price. I said, call and cancel. And he called and canceled, and I was able to save him $13,000.
$13,000. Well, we've got an expert here. We'll be back. She's going to stick around for another half an hour, buddy. Stay tuned.